Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now the middle of March of 2023, and with The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3 now officially out on Disney+, a lot of fans really enjoyed this episode and are even looking forward to the next one even all the more so than, of course, before, and exactly what Jon and Dave are up to when it comes to all of their other Star Wars TV shows that are actively in development as we speak. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that we have a lot of things going on at the same exact time, simultaneously by the way, between George, Jon, and Dave's work on the franchise, as well as new creators, by the way, getting hired by Jon and Dave to really expand their team and to really expand how Star Wars is going to operate on not just a streaming level, but also on a cinematic level, because Bob Iger has this big game plan to bring Star Wars back to the theaters again, as we discussed earlier today, and have been discussing. Now, the latest has a lot to do with what Dave Filoni recently did to Kathleen Kennedy's big plan in one of her upcoming Star Wars shows that was going to basically sabotage the prequel trilogy films and a great portion of the Skywalker saga, and that Filoni, thankfully, prevented all of this from happening. We're going to be diving into every specific detail about what happened throughout this week, since Jon and Dave took over elements of the Acolyte series. Around 40% of the show they have control over right now. That's a rough estimate, by the way. And basically, they really are tweaking, they're fine-tuning a lot of elements of the show, getting rid of as many retcons toward George's work as they can, that Kathleen Kennedy initiated. So, with that being put out there, with Disney and Lucasfilm getting ready to develop a new Star Wars project that will be announced very soon, Jon and Dave are also preparing to make a very special project for the Star Wars fandom. Now, it's described that Disney is now aiming for something completely different for a Star Wars project that is currently in the very early stages by George, Jon, and Dave. Now, just recently, since both Favreau and Filoni are now involved with the Acolyte series and working on roughly 40% of the show, Filoni recently canceled a major piece that Kennedy was about to establish in the canon as one of the first big fixes to the show, and erasing a certain retcon. Filoni recently completely deleted a scene altogether that was set to establish that Anakin was never the true Chosen One prophecy. Kennedy had this plan to create another Chosen One as the true prophecy before Anakin, and that she was about to create a narrative that Anakin was never the Chosen One during the Skywalker saga. This was, of course, one of the biggest and most controversial retcons that Kennedy was pursuing to be done in the Acolyte that has now since been deleted. Now, before I get to the next big segment about all of this, one thing I really do have to put out there is that we talked about this for a very long time, about how Kathleen Kennedy was creating this new Chosen One for the Acolyte series in the very beginning. Of course, it went through various stages, various character designs and all the like. And then, in the latest example, we're going to be going over exactly how it was done through Sith and Jedi lore. Now, the entire scene was filmed, it was all finished, and it was really, entering into, of course, the final phases, and Dave Filoni recently just got rid of it altogether, thankfully. So basically what Kennedy wanted to do was that she wanted to literally erase the fact that Anakin was the Chosen One and was the true Chosen One prophecy. She wanted to diminish that and create a new meaning behind all of that by making the true Chosen One that came before Anakin. And to me, it makes absolutely no sense. It's a jarbled mess, and that's exactly what Dave Filoni is trying to fix and clean up as we speak. Now, the thing about this further is that we also know that Dave Filoni knows his lore. He is the true protege of George Lucas. Let's not forget about that Filoni knows almost everything about everything when it comes to the Legends content, when it comes to George Lucas and what he approved for Legends back in the day. And yeah, Jon Favreau too, he knows his lore, but not quite as much as Dave Filoni. He's more of the world builder and more of the guy that creates these adventures in the storyline. So, moving on to the next big thing here. We already know that Kathleen Kennedy is and has been very upset ever since Disney took over portions of the Acolyte, allowing Jon and Dave to literally do whatever they have to do to make the show at least halfway decent. I don't think it's going to save the show entirely, but it's going to at least make it a decent series instead of a complete failure. That's basically Disney's priority right now. That's why they got Jon and Dave on board. Now, on top of that too, the scene was going to be done in a way where one of the Sith characters were going to discover a hidden Sith holocron that actually unveiled the true Chosen One prophecy. The big retcon that was cancelled also included a moment in which the new Chosen One was best described as a Jedi god that was feared by the ancient Sith and other Sith tribes across the galaxy, that was stored as a myth in the Sith holocron that ended up being true. Filoni has since deleted the entire scene and called it off, as he knew how damaging this was going to be for the audience, and for the Star Wars brand itself in general. So, the good side about what this scene could have offered, and I'm not saying it's good in the general sense, I think it's pretty bad. The good thing that we could have gotten out of this was a Sith holocron literally in the works, in live action, actually working. And that, to me, I think would have been amazing to see. I think that's something that a lot of fans would have loved to experience. Now, the only Sith holocron that we really saw in great depth, and I mean up close, was in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Alright, and Dryden Voss's lair. In the background, you do see a Sith holocron. It's pretty, gigantic, and it's not activated or anything like that, but it's sitting there. We never really got to see a Sith holocron in full use in live action. So that's the only downside to this, is that it's looking like we might not be able to see something like that, but on the other end, this is a big blessing in disguise. I'm glad that Dave Filoni deleted this scene, because I think that this would have caused nothing but a terrible backlash among fans. I know I myself would have been very upset about this, by them resetting the idea that Anakin was never the true Chosen One, and was never the real Chosen One per se, quote unquote, and that there was one that existed before Anakin. It would have made no sense. It would have completely destroyed the overall meaning of episodes 1 through 3, and especially episode 6, Return of the Jedi, where, yeah, Anakin is the true Chosen One because he's the one that saves Luke, and Luke then goes on to complete the Jedi Order, the Jedi Academy. He gave Luke a chance to do that, and that's why he's the Chosen One at the end of the day. The problem a lot of fans have with The Rise of Skywalker is that, yes, that was, believe it or not, Kathleen Kennedy's attempt at taking away that concept that Anakin is the true Chosen One, and kind of putting that more so into the hands of Rey, of restoring the actual balance and destroying the Sith once and for all, finally, forever. So, anyways, we also know that Jon and Dave are really very well aware of Kathleen Kennedy's damage that she could have caused by all of this, and I'm glad that Dave Filoni took action. I really am. So anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you guys have to say about all of this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.